What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 3 and Out YouTube page. I'm John Middlekauff, and we are talking football all day, every day. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends. Let's roll, baby. What is going on, everybody? John Middlekauff, GoLow podcast. We do a lot of football here, but we also talk golf, the PGA Tour, LIV, everything that's going on. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also find it on the podcast feed. 3 and Out. We do it on a weekly basis. I had to hop on the mic on Monday morning and discuss Scottie Scheffler because he's having a historic season. But I do think there's a lot of pressure heading on him, heading into the final major on him. I didn't watch any of it, but I saw a lot of clips. And I do think LIV, depending on how long this thing is going to last with all the potential agreements about an agreement, a handshake deal to have another handshake deal. But for the next couple years, as LIV is definitely going to be around, I do think they figured something out this weekend that they need to double down on. Quick Tiger story that came out last week, as well as some mailbag questions from @GoLowPod. @GoLowPod is the Instagram. So fire in those DMs. Anything golf-wise. We do the football one on my personal Instagram. Created a separate golf Instagram if you want to slide in and ask any questions. But before we dive into golf, summer's here. Baseball games happening all over America. Football is not that far away. We're about 2 months away from the start of college football season. Then a couple weeks later, the NFL season. If you want to go to a game, I saw the Kelsey brothers were somewhere in Europe at a Taylor Swift concert. Well, guess what? My friends, my partners in the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime, has you covered for every event. So if you want to go to a concert, a comedy show, download the Gametime app. It's really easy. Price points, sight lines. I've been using them for a couple years. Cannot recommend them enough. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Scottie Scheffler. What else can you even say? Right? He's clearly the best player in the world. He's one of the most accomplished players on this given season that we've ever seen in the history of the game. I saw a lot of people on the old Twitter X app. His season is very, very similar to Tiger in 2000. Same point in time, 13 events played, no missed cuts, 6 wins, scoring average. Scottie's scoring average is actually a little lower, but there's a major difference. And for as historic of a season Scottie is having, he's the first guy at this point in time in the end of June to have 6 wins since Arnold Palmer. Now, the season has changed so dramatically, it's not really an apples to apples thing. It's like when people argue on these shows about, like, could Jerry West have played in today's game? Which is a stupid argument because there is no answer, but it's hard to even make it comparable, and obviously the answer is yes. In golf, it is much more difficult because the equipment changes have dramatically changed over the last decade, and the way the season plays out is not comparable. Obviously now, because of LIV, they've done all these designated premium events where it's a small field, no cut. Scottie's winning them, and it's why he's made almost $30 million. His caddy, Ted Scott, who has been like, even he just said, the reason we won this weekend is because Ted Scott, who has won on this course and been in the mix to win on this course a lot with Bubba Watson, just gave me the game plan, and I just followed it. He told me what to do, and I just did it. The game plan was his. It's like in, I think, 86, Belichick's game plan, or it might have been 1990. Whenever the Giants, I think, beat the Bills, he had like a historic game plan to shut down that offense. It's in the Hall of Fame. And even Parcells was like, yeah, he was a schematic genius. It's obviously a little different in golf. Like, you got to hit the shots. But he's telling you what club to hit and exactly where to hit it. And obviously Scottie, because he's so freaking good, can do it. I mean, that's what makes a great player. Hit it there. I always love anyone that's ever played at a course with a caddy. If you don't know where you're playing, right? Bandon Dunes, wherever. And the caddy's like, yeah, just take it over that tree. It's like, well, I don't know if it's going to go at that tree. It's like, yeah, hit it 260 yards. It's like, well, sometimes my three would go straight, but other time it duck hooks to the left. Right? Anytime you've ever played with a caddy, they're always doing that. Like, oh, just wrap it around that tree. It's like, bro, I don't have that shot in my bag. Well, obviously the number one player in the world who's having one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen has it. And it was awesome. Yesterday, I didn't watch that much Thursday and Friday. Dabbled a little on Saturday. Actually, I didn't. I watched the morning when Cam Young, and then I went and played golf. And I watched the entire back nine on Sunday. And it was really fun. That's a fun event. I know a lot of people like scores, whatever. It's like, whatever. It's just an enjoyable event. It usually is drama-filled down the end. And we got a playoff. We also got a protest on the 18th green, which led to one of the great scenes of cops turning into Luke Kuechly, Ray Lewis, and Ronnie Lott, just lighting people up like a Christmas tree. You got Scottie Scheffler and Tom Kim backing up, watching. Just an incredible viral moment. There's like paint or whatever the hell they were spraying all over the place. Tom Kim hits like a 10-foot birdie putt to send it into extra holes. There's red stuff 5 feet away. Just an incredible scene. Also cool that it kind of went viral earlier this week. They're all Dallas guys. Both their birthdays this week. They went to pizza. They're really close friends. And Scottie talked about it after in the press conference. I do think there is tangible pressure on Scottie to win the British Open because it's not a comparable resume to Tiger in 2000. He won 3 of the 4 majors. And obviously he carried it over in 2001, finishing the Tiger Slam with winning the Masters in 2001. But for as great as Scottie's playing, and listen, the eye test, he's fucking dominating. He is kicking everyone's butt on a weekly basis, minus Pinehurst. Honestly, he could have 8 wins. I mean, he missed the putt. What was it, like a couple months ago when Steven Yeager ended up winning? That easily could have gone to extra holes, and I think we would have liked Scottie in extra holes. But not that this season will be hollow, because he'll probably win a playoff event, maybe multiple, as well as the Tour Championship. He could end this year with 8 or 9 wins. And if you win the Tour Championship this year, he might end up with $50 million on the course alone, not counting whatever Nike's paying him, which I would guess $25, $30 million, given how much TV time he's making, given how much he's winning. So he's going to have one of the most lucrative seasons in the history of the sport, not named Tiger Woods. And because Tiger was so long ago, when you factor in inflation, like how many 70, $80 million years did Tiger have? Clearly, he was making a lot less on the course because the purses were smaller, but he was making a lot off the course. And I remember the most highest paid athletes in like the 2000s and the early 2010s. Phil was up there as well. But a lot of that was sponsorship driven because the tournaments did not pay nearly what these guys are getting now. Now you're getting a guy winning $50 million on the course. I think he has to win the British. And I checked this morning. He's plus 450 to win it, which I think would be his lowest or his highest odds, heading into one of the majors this year. Like just this tournament this weekend, he was 3-1. I was tempted, but I was like, I don't know. After a major, he had just played well. Maybe he just cruises to like a 6th. Then all of a sudden on Sunday, I'm kicking myself. I saw Portnoy won like $500,000. You could never go wrong betting on this guy. The problem with the British is he's only played in the tournament 3 times. His best finish was 2021, which was 8th. The last 2 years he's played, he hasn't finished in the top 20. And it's kind of a random tournament, depending on your draw, depending on the weather. It can be freezing cold. The wind can pump. It can rain. But if he wins this and you go at the end of the year, he wins 8 times and he wins 2 majors, then I have no problem discussing him as one of the greatest seasons of all time. But if he doesn't, like, not to take anything away from yesterday, there's 70 guys, 60 guys in the tournament. No one gets cut. And a guy like him, I mean, he shot 65, 64, 64, 65. If you just look at him and Tom Kim's rounds over the 4 days, it's like, are they, what's going on here? But I hope he wins it. I'm rooting for him to win it. I like history. I like watching great players validate things. I remember in 2022, like, let's face it, in a weird way, Steph Curry didn't get that much credit. I don't know, for the first championship they won when Kevin Durant didn't exist, And then a lot of people just didn't give him much credit when Kevin Durant got there. But when he won in 2022, it's like, you can't say anything. Like, there is nothing to be said. He's won 2 literally by himself with Clay and Draymond. He won 2 more with Kevin Durant, but like, no one can say anything. Look at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Everyone's like, are these guys champions? Should you break them up? Well, they won it. And the moment you win it, it shuts everybody up. No one can say shit. You can make fun of Joe Flacco all you want. He goes, remember when I beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl? Obviously, Eli got the second, but the moment he won that first one against the undefeated New England Patriots, conversation's kind of over. Obviously, where he's going to rank all time, legacy, all that stuff. I'm a champion, bro. It's a wrap. It's why the Rory conversation is so fascinating because, like, listen, it sucks for him. He's gone 10 straight years without winning a major. He probably could have won 2 over the last 24 months. If things went right, he easily could have won 3. Like, obviously, if he doesn't miss the putt a couple weeks ago, he's got 5. But no matter what happens, and I think Rory McIlroy is going to win another major. He goes, I'm a 4-time major champion. Jordan Spieth might never win another PGA tournament again. Like that to me is very, very plausible. I've won 3 major championships. 3. And that's the thing in golf. Like, you have guys that have had great careers, made a lot of money. There's a big difference for Jason Day or Justin Rose, like those guys just having the one major championship. It changed Keegan Bradley's career when he won the PGA early on in his career. More than likely, Keegan Bradley's never winning another major, but it doesn't really matter. Like Colin Morikawa could go on to make $100 million playing golf. If he never wins another one, it's like, well, I got the 2. Now we can go the COVID, blah, blah, blah. Like, listen, I'm a 2-time major champion. And Scottie's won 2, but it's been the same tournament. And honestly, it feels like he's going to win the Masters if he stays healthy, probably like 4 times in his career. It's like perfectly made for him. He clearly dominates on that course. He's very comfortable there. He's going to be the favorite, at least for the next several years heading into that tournament. But he's got to win one of these other ones. And I think on this specific season, to even begin to compare him to 2000 Tiger Woods, Tiger won 3 fucking majors that year. So he's just got to do it. He's got it. Or else it's going to be, listen, most lucrative PGA season of all time. That's awesome. Incredible just consistency of winning tournaments. How many majors did he win? He only won the 1? Now, I feel pretty good about him going into the British, but it's not like he has a long history playing these courses over there. And it's not like he's had that much success relative to a lot of other guys that he's going to see. So that's clearly going to be the number one story heading in. Rory, because I guess Rory will probably have talked the previous week when they had the Scottish. But yeah, man, I think he's going to do it. I hope he does it. But if he doesn't, like, I do think it's fair if, like, you're having beers with your buddy, it's like, God, for as awesome as that year was, felt like he left a little meat on the bone. Get ready for a night full of big fights and big action. It's UFC 303, and it can be even bigger. Jump in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting something simple, like picking a fighter to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your fighter, and place your first bet. Really that simple. The lightweight heavyweight title is on the line in the main event, but there are so many more amazing matchups happening in Vegas. And speaking of amazing, if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code JOHN, that's code JOHN, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets. When you bet just $5. Get that big night feel. Only on DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Okay, LIV. After Bryson wins the tournament, the U.S. Open, and just played to the cameras unlike any golfer we've ever seen. And it was cool. Like, it's the right move. Letting everyone touch it. He's everywhere, having a good time. I think his number one key, separate from the YouTube, separate from hitting bombs, separate from just playing unlike any guy we've ever seen, is he smiles a lot now. He seems very happy. Do you know what people like? Happy people. They're just enjoyable to watch when they're entertaining us. And I think Bryson's really embraced it, and it's worked out. They clearly had some momentum coming into this week. but I think they kind of hacked it a little bit. And I don't know if they've noticed this, but they should 100% double down. Like, people are not going to watch LIV on TV. Their television ratings are just not going to be good. I watch every golf tournament every single week, at least at minimum bits and pieces of it. I didn't watch 1 second on television. So if they can't get me, they are going to really, really struggle to get the casual guy. And that's how sports thrive. Casuals. Most people are not diehards breaking down articles, watching every shot, watching every dribble, watching every pitch. The way you build your business is kind of off random people, casual people. That's what Tiger brought in waves. And last week at Pinehurst, they had their highest rated tournament in like a decade. LIV should try to build out as a party, and they're doing that. Golf, but louder is their thing. Now, John Rahm, which is kind of weird, withdrew 2 weeks ago from LIV, then withdraws from the U.S. Open, and then plays this week. Listen, I miss John Rahm playing on the PGA Tour. He's just an enjoyable competitor to have out there with the big dogs. A little bit of a red flag, kind of bizarre. Now, if I had to take an educated guess, I would say, well, maybe he wasn't that confident on his game. His foot was a little fucked up, and he's like, I don't want to shoot 12 over and miss the cut and everyone make fun of me. So I bow out, play the next week, whatever. His team actually won, and his partner, Terrell Hatton, won the event in Nashville. But here's the thing with LIV. Go to the party cities. Don't go to any random city. It's clearly difficult for them to get on sweet courses. Why? Because usually the PGA Tour is involved with those courses in some form or fashion. And then some country clubs that maybe they would be interested have members that are associated with the tour and just push back against it. But they came to Arizona earlier this year. They went to Tucson. I would find a way to come to Scottsdale. Nashville, party city. Every video I saw of Bryson looked like a massive party. Vegas, last year around the Super Bowl. I would go to Vegas every single year. Miami, double down on that. New Orleans, double down on that. They're going to Chicago for their season-ending championship. Go to party cities, because clearly the Saudis don't care that much about the television ratings. They're not going to get them. And financially, it's not like they're making money from this endeavor. It was all about a long-term play to try to disrupt the golf professional world, which they did. But I think your event in person could be pretty special. That's what makes Waste Management so awesome. I play out there all the time. It's a cool course. It's cool. But it's not, fucking Olympic Club or Pebble Beach. But they've created a party there. It's an event, which actually kind of jumped the shark this year. It's why they've pushed back, and I think they're going to raise general admission prices from what I've heard 4 or 5x, because they want to calm it down a little bit. Well, LIV is doubling down on the party aspect. So if you want to party, go to the party cities. Scottsdale, Nashville, Miami, Vegas, and New Orleans would be must-haves in America for as long as this thing's going. Because they went to Australia, a party place, and had a ton of success. People want to go out, drink beers, enjoy themselves, have a good time. So who wins the event ultimately doesn't matter. It's just distributing more money to already rich guys. The television product clearly doesn't matter because nobody's watching. But the in-person event can be fun. And that's what, honestly, the travelers, a lot of people, and I listen to a lot of golf podcasts, talk a lot of crap about the event. Like, it's kind of meaningless. Why do they play there? I'm watching. It looks like the people are having a lot of fun there. And there's something to be said about that, And I think LIV might be onto something, going to these specific cities that already have partying built in and just quadrupling down. Utilize Bryson right now. Utilize him. Like, he is your one asset. And he's a big reason, like, the tour misses him greatly. Because if there was a number one draft pick of anyone the PGA Tour could get back currently in June, I'm recording this June 24th, 2024, it would not be John Rahm. Clearly wouldn't be DJ or Koepka. It would be Bryson DeChambeau. And every single social clip I saw this weekend was him. LIV knows it, and they're riding him. Okay, before we dive into the mailbag, There was a piece of news last week that Tiger Woods, these designated events that are no cut, he is going to be exempt into every single one. And they just basically made it up, which doesn't bother me at all. The problem is, you think Tiger Woods is going to play in any of these? You think Tiger Woods is going to show up to any of these events? I don't. Maybe in 2025, he plays one extra event. If I had to set the number on non-majors that Tiger Woods plays in 2025, I'd put the over-under at 0.5. And I wouldn't feel very good about taking the over. Maybe he gets super bored and just shows up, but a no-cut event, that means he has to play all 4 rounds. I mean, when's the last time he played all 4 rounds? So it sounds cool. It's a cool headline. They're probably doing it specifically to like let the sponsors know, but like the evidence speaks for itself. Ever since his car crash and the leg injury, he just can't play. He said it over and over and over. Like he doesn't have the capacity to do it. So the headline looks sexy. It got my attention. And then I started thinking, like, he's not going to play in these events. A lot of these events are either a week before or a week after the major. And he always says, like, it takes me forever to get ready. And then after the major, I'm just done for a while. So I don't know what expectation there would be for Tiger Woods to play in any events, non-majors moving forward. Okay, at GoLow Pod, fire into those DMs and get your question answered here on the show. In a time where golf has never been more popular and more people are playing than ever, why is our ratings down? And I get half the field is playing in LIV, but can I think of a few reasons why? 1, 4 rounds of golf is entirely too much for the average viewer. Needs to be Friday through Sunday. The Masters is the most popular event and is played firstly at the beginning of the year. Why not end the year with the Masters? Television ratings for Thursday and Friday are irrelevant. Those days of an event for a non-major are on the Golf Channel and ESPN Plus. They are not on CBS or NBC. They do not matter. So the only ratings that matter for golf are Saturday and Sunday. And in those tournaments, well, some of the designated events now, but talking the players, talking RIV, talking whatever, waste management, are after a cut. So you have a smaller field trying to win the tournament. I do think a big reason why they're down is LIV, because the majors have always mattered more, but they've never mattered more than they do in 2024. Because as we know, one of the best players in the world, Bryson's gone. Some of the most famous players, Koepka, DJ, now John Rahm, are just not playing on a random week. All those guys would have been playing this week at the Travelers. All those guys would have been playing at the RBC. Some of those guys I listed are champions at the Waste Management or Pebble Beach or RIV. So you don't have, this is an individual sport. So if I take away some of your top talent, it doesn't mean as much. It's why when we watch the U.S. Open, clearly it's on Father's Day. A lot of people are home. But there was Bryson DeChambeau, who we never get to see anymore, going toe-to-toe with Rory. So the drama built in with just the name recognition, but also getting this guy that we don't get to watch. I really don't think it's that complicated. Now, there's been one guy over 25 years who truly moves the needle. He doesn't even move the needle. He was the needle in Tiger Woods. But in a sport like this, no different than tennis, which is not the same. But if we went back 15, 10 years ago, if I took Federer or Djokovic or Nadal or Sampras or some of those guys and I split them in half, it would diminish any event. It just would. Now, maybe tennis is different because their Grand Slams are probably the only thing most people watch. But in golf, like, it's an inventory sport. Every single week they're playing. The next couple weeks, the RBC in Detroit and the John Deere in Iowa don't matter, and they never really have. But when you diminish the Players' Championship, when you diminish the Memorial, when you diminish RIV, when you diminish Waste Management, it does impact the consumer. So, like you said, Thursday, Friday, you're right. It's a long tournament, but they don't matter. They're not looking to get ratings. If 500,000 people watch on the Golf Channel, that's a win. It's all about, for CBS and NBC, Saturday, and Sunday. And I think you see a direct correlation with Pinehurst superstars, two guys that you could not see any other time going head to head beside 4 times a year. It's not even possible anymore because one guy doesn't play on the PGA Tour. So I just don't think it's that complicated. I don't think they need to change to 3 days because I do think the cut and the ultimate, meritocracy of golf that cuts guys out that aren't playing well. It's why a lot of people, including myself, push back against this designated event, no cut bullshit. Now, I get it from a business standpoint. If I invest a lot of money as a title sponsor, I don't want Scottie Scheffler having an off week and getting cut, even though it's not possible. Right? I don't want Rory missing the cut or Colin Morikawa or whoever, the star players, John Rahm, Bryson back when those guys played. The problem is I need all those guys. You only have so many guys that have true name recognition in golf with the casual. I know most golfers, Korn Ferry included, because I follow the shit. Most people do not. You could argue right now, beside Tiger or Phil, there's less than 5 guys that move the needle. You could argue it's really 3, right? Rory, Scottie, and Bryson DeChambeau. Well, one of them's gone. And that's just definitely impacted the sport in a bad way. Can you discuss a bit more about the ratings impact that you were seeing on these PGA tournaments? I have a buddy that is trying to convince me that all these stars leaving isn't making a big difference in viewership. So it's a very similar question. And like I said, you can't remove star players from an individual sport like this. Just look at the NBA, who has struggled with ratings. Imagine if I took 5 of their top 10 players and I put them in another league that no one was paying attention to, beside like social clips. I removed Curry, I removed Giannis, and I removed Luka. It's like, well, you still got LeBron, you still got Anthony Edwards, you still got Tatum and Brown. It would hurt. And I think golf has been impacted by that because you're not watching the best of the best compete. Now, you could argue that historically, guys got to choose their own schedule. Listen, the business model was not sustainable. You can't have a sport built on stars when they don't always have to play. What's a big issue with the NBA over the last 10 years? Load management, guys not playing. You just go to a game, it's like, wait, Curry and LeBron are sitting tonight? What the hell? That's what football brings to the table. When you buy tickets to a football game, if that guy is not injured, which is obviously possible in that sport, he's going to play. So when I go to a Miami Dolphins Bills game, I have a pretty good idea if Tyreek Hill and Josh Allen are playing in that game. And let's face it, most of the time they do. It takes an injury for them not to play. And that's the one problem you get in golf before this whole situation was like, oh yeah, John Rahm's taking this week off. Bryson's taking the next 2 weeks off. Rory's out. Like, I understand the emotional come down. I don't understand it, but I get where he's coming from. Bowing out this weekend at the Travelers in Rory. That had to really suck for him, clearly, on Sunday against Bryson. But like, bro, kind of need you to play. This is the business we've built, and you're a huge part of it. You're the lead dog. Can't just like leave. I know you're emotionally down, but we kind of need you. You're kind of one of our lead dogs. Like, you're carrying the flag here of this business where we're all making the money. And I just don't, it's a tough spot. And it's why the tour was very vulnerable. Golf mailbag. Like you, I also like golf, play, and gamble on golf. I'll send you pics of the golf simulator room I built. Looks pretty sweet. Here's my comment. Golf broadcasts, in general, are pretty lame. I know you're panned on some of the LIV broadcasts, but they have some good graphics that really enhance the telecast. I'm a nerd. I want to see swing metrics, ball speed, launch angle, ball tracer, all of them. Every shot being telecast should have a large array of these metrics and graphics. As mentioned, LIV has nice graphics that show tee shots flight versus score to par that I think really enhance the broadcast. I'd like to see more of this. More graphics, more metrics. You see it in other broadcasts. Apple does some of this in their baseball broadcasts. Amazon with Thursday Night Football. I'm with you. I'm not opposed to that. I think anytime you're watching CBS or NBC and the shot tracer does not work off the tee, it's like that's unacceptable. Like it has to, you got to get it. You can't have a guy, especially on a Sunday, and it happened multiple times yesterday, where a dude teed off and you don't see the shot tracer. I I would say this about the launch angle and the ball speed. That's pretty inside baseball, but I'm with you. I don't think anyone would be opposed to it. Like I like it when they do the apex on a shot when they do get the shot tracer. Let's face it, CBS and NBC, who have all the golf stuff, are both heavily involved with the NFL. And they put all their chips in the middle of the table, the way they treat those broadcasts, how seriously they take it, how innovative they are, how quick they are to reshuffle stuff. They just don't take golf as seriously. If I were to defend the golf broadcasts who in the, golf podcast and media world take a lot of shit, it is not football or basketball where there is a timeout and a 3-minute break and you can just go to commercial break and nothing is happening. If you watch the NBA finals, if you watch an NFL or college football game, you never miss a play. You never miss a dribble. In baseball, you never miss a pitch. Golf is pretty unique that you have however many guys on the course at one time, 60, 70 guys, and maybe 10, 15 in the mix. It's hard to show all the shots and get the commercial load in because the only way they can make the money by purchasing the rights is to show commercials. They have to make their money back. Listen, I'm in that business. We play commercials. Some of you guys complain about it. It's the business we're in. Luckily, if you listen to a podcast, like everything I say, you can hear. We miss shots in golf. I don't really have a solution for that. Clearly, it doesn't feel like they obviously care that much at times. And a lot of people feel like it's one giant FU. I'm with you. You can always be innovative. I think the walk and talk thing is a cool little addition. But again, that's pretty nerdy too. I think at the end of the day, golf's just kind of a niche, boring sport. It's why it'll never be one of the big sports in America in terms of like 20 million people watching that doesn't include Tiger Woods. But the 3, 4, 5, 6 million people that watch the big events, sometimes the Masters, 8, 9, $10 million, you can do a better job. And sometimes it feels like they've just waved the white flag. Like, it is what it is. This is our broadcast. I got back from my Father's Day round of golf to find NBC broadcasting the U.S. Open all day. I love it. I'm going to be floating in the pool the rest of the day, so not really listening to the coverage. I just wanted to say I'm a big fan of NBC having it all day. Love your takes on networks ratings. Want to hear your thoughts on the coverage. One issue that the U.S. Open had was to have a good, I would say, coverage in any sport. You have the play-by-play guy, and in golf and football, it's Jim Nantz on CBS. In football, he has one guy next to him. Forever it was Phil Simms. Now it's Tony Romo. In basketball, these 3-man booths are awful. Just give me 2 people. Give me the play-by-play guy and the analyst. And in golf, you got a bunch of people on the course you can throw it down to that are following the leaders. It should be an easy back and forth, like a ping pong. I like Brandel Chambly. I know a lot of the players hate on him. I'll say this for Brandel. He'll talk a little shit. He'll be like, that's awful. And sometimes in sports, you get these guys, former players, whoever, that are never willing to criticize. Yet when we're all sitting on the couch, the reason all this exists in all the sports are us watching. If we didn't watch, none of this would exist. Golf would just basically be great players playing and member guests. So you have to resonate with the fans. I've said this forever about Troy Aikman. He kind of got his fastball back after he went to ESPN and Tony Romo got paid. And he will be critical of coaches and players, especially coaches. And sometimes you watch these new players, like Tony Romo ain't really being critical. I like Tony as a guy. Like I like to play golf with him. He's not really my cup of tea. I like a guy to be aggressive. Now, some would say that Brandel was being overly aggressive to Bryson because he hates LIV, which is well documented, which I thought he was a little too, but you can't have 4 guys in the booth. It's just too many people talking. Him and Faxon going back and forth. And let's face it, there's a balance, right? Trevor Immelman is not the level of player Nick Faldo was, but he is way better than Nick Faldo. It ain't even close. He's good. He's also easy to listen to because it's just two guys. It's him and Nance, and then everyone else on the course. So when you look, like, you don't need to be Tom Brady to be a star broadcaster. You just don't. Being a broadcaster is about entertainment. And can you relate and can you create like emotion to the guy watching when you're the analyst? Are you willing to say some stuff? Sometimes it might be uncomfortable for the dude playing or a coach or whoever, depending on the sport. But if you're not willing to do that, I think you're terrible at your job. It's going to be interesting with Tom Brady, who is crushing these hits with Coward. But like, is Tom going to crush a coach that maybe he knows or maybe he likes? It's kind of a weird position to be in. If he does that, as well as how well he speaks about the game, he's going to be a superstar. But like, I like big personalities. That's why John Madden is an all-time rock star. Even Gruden. Like, Gruden was pretty entertaining on Monday Night Football. Nick Faldo was terrible. Never said anything. It was awful. Greg Norman, in theory, should have been really good. Big personality, big talker. You watched him when Fox had the U.S. Open for a couple of years. He was awful. At Chambers Bay, when Dustin Johnson has a chance to eagle to win, 2-putt for extra holes, or 3-putt, he just completely froze. Like, he choked. I was like, God, this is awful. It's a tough job. I'm not acting like I could do it. But I know what's good and what's not because I've been watching sports for 30 plus years. And the flow of that U.S. Open, I'm not even talking about the commercial. You can't have that many people talking. It's just too weird. It doesn't work. There has to be somewhat of a cohesion with everybody. And it's so much easier to have a cohesion when there's just two people. When you got 3-4 people all sitting around each other, it just does not work. And it didn't work. But ultimately, the golf was so good, you could argue it doesn't really matter. As I'm watching the back nine on Sunday of the Open, the U.S. Open, an idea popped into my head. And I know it will never happen, but it would be cool if they could have Rory hold off after finishing a hole and let Bryson catch up so they could finish the round being grouped together. However, if you make Rory stop for the extended time, you risk him screwing his rhythm up. I just don't like when the tournament is coming down to two players and they're not in the final group together. I think there's two elements to this question. It worked that weekend, mainly because they were literally 10 minutes apart, and the way that course flowed, the tee boxes were right next to the greens. It worked. But you could argue it never should have happened. They have these archaic rules in golf. If a bunch of guys are tied at a number, that is based on when you finish that round, who plays the following day. It's why Rory and Bryson were not paired together. Or it's like, guys, you control everything, right? You control who plays together. You make up the rules. That was a no-brainer. In what world, if you control everything, would you have not put Rory and Bryson together? On your question, sometimes it's out of your control. If a guy is a group or two ahead and they end up being tied, or, you know, it's basically a 2-horse race and they're not in the final group. It just, that's part of golf. But on that specific instance at the U.S. Open, they should just put the two together. Now, you could argue it worked out a little bit better for viewing, kind of the back and forth, but it didn't need to be that. It did. The Masters does the same shit. Like, you control it. So I never understand why you wouldn't look at the NFL. They don't control who plays. You play your division. You play a division in another conference. You play another division in your conference. And then you play first place schedule or second place or wherever you finish. So we know when a season ends, the 17 opponents on a team schedule. Yet, they take the sweetest games and they make sure they're in the best spots, right? They control the schedule. They don't control who plays each other, even though the best teams end up playing each other because first place teams like the Chiefs play the Bills every year, right? Peyton Manning and Tom Brady played each other every year because the first place schedule. But like they do control when we watch it and what games are in prime time. I do think golf has to do a better job at that. And it's easy. You make the rules. It's not like there's some governing body. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay, last question. What do you use to record and edit your pods? Well, I record this on GarageBand. I shoot the video on Zoom, gets sent back to my team, James, Adam, and they cut it all up, Daniel. And I have a mic, says focus right. It's like a mic you would find at I don't know, a radio. You know, this isn't, if you're going to get into this business, you can't, the USB mics just aren't as good. So you have to get, now it's a lot of equipment. I didn't set it up. James did. So I can't, I'm not an equipment guy. I just know we got really good equipment. I got a nice Sony camera, but the USB mics, if you're going to get in the mic, stay away from that. I feel like enough people aren't talking about how incredibly lucky Bryson actually ended up being from his tee shot hitting the spectator. His second shot was still incredibly tough, but had it not hit that fan, it would have been even tougher on the second shot. Maybe I'm overplaying it, but wanted your thoughts. That's part of pro golf. I mean, you hit towers, you hit trees. It's part of golf. Sometimes you hit the worst drive ever and it hits a tree and goes out to the middle of the fairway. Sometimes you hit a good drive and you're behind a tree. I would say he got a pretty bad break being in the root and under that tree. But like, you hit fans. Like there's nothing you can do about that. I never understand, and I've been to probably 5+ PGA Tour tournaments. I never, ever stand 300+ yards on a hole. I'm either at the tee box or kind of around the green, you know, in the stands. But I would never, ever stand on a hole. You're just in the firing line. Guys get peppered all the time. But to me, you could argue that Bryson got really lucky. Rory hadn't missed a putt inside 4 feet all season long. If he just makes those 2 putts, Bryson shit out of luck. I think he got more lucky in Rory's putting woes than he did a bounce, because we saw all week long, sometimes you got kind of boned in that wire grass, and sometimes you were fine. It was truly like, keep your fingers crossed. It's why it was so fascinating watching those guys walk up the fairway, having no clue. Most courses we all play, you have a pretty good idea, like, hope I'm not in the bunker, or hope I got a decent lie in the rough. Now, in Arizona, sometimes you're like, I hope I got a shot out of the dirt. But at that course, it was truly like, I don't know. I could have a perfect lie, have 150 yards in that won't even faze me, or I could legitimately be in a bush. So I don't think it's that. I just think these guys hit fans all the time on drives. Every week, every tournament. Fans are getting hit. Trees get hit. Remember, at the PGA, Bryson, I think it was like hole 16. I think he ended up birdieing it. Hit one of the worst drives he's hit in any major this year. Duck hook left. Hit off a tree, middle of the fairway. It's kind of golf. You know, I think it's just, there's a randomness to the sport. It's why when these guys bitch and moan about getting unlucky, like, yeah, I don't feel any sympathy for you. Now, I get it. If the greens are running like concrete, I'd be mad too. But this notion that you should just be rewarded, it's like, well, there's too much luck involved. Well, yeah, it's kind of the sport. It's what we all deal with. Watching you guys have to deal with it. Like, they loved last weekend, Travelers. It's hit at the pin, it stops, 10-footer for birdie. Like, I really enjoyed watching Pinehurst, because it was like, I know that nobody I know could break 100. Not a soul. And I'm talking guys that shoot in the 70s. It would have been so impossible. Like, that was fun golf to watch. And it pissed a lot of guys off. They're getting mad. They're bitching and moaning. It's like, yeah. It's enjoyable to see you guys with your back against the wall, keeping your fingers crossed on every single shot. And I think it most spoke on their drives with that wiregrass. I've seen a lot of different opinions. People thought it was kind of stupid. To me, it's better than just like 7-inch rough. There was such a randomness to it that just kept you on the edge of your seat. It's why both Rory and Bryson on the 18th hole, when they both pumped it left, which I still don't understand. Both guys, and I would say most guys on the PGA Tour, drivers could be a little iffy. Happens to us all. The majority of them hit their 3-wood pretty straight. Both those guys hit their 3-wood 300 yards. So clearly the fairway's not that big on 18. Both of them, their misses left. You got huge area to miss left in the shit. Why wouldn't you just pump a 3-wood to the middle of the fairway? Even Bryson, you could argue. Rory's in a little bit of trouble, probably going to par. Why wouldn't you hit a 3-wood to have a pretty good chance at birdie? And I know he just always hits driver, but the driver had not been working. Even he said after, he's like, my driver was kind of all over the place. It wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. I don't understand why he didn't hit 3-wood on 18 when he had just hit 3-wood, whatever, on hole 13 and drove the green. Dead straight, baby, little draw. Why he didn't do that, I don't know. I don't get it. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. He's a U.S. Open champion and be one of the heavy favorites headed to the British Open.